live show. Checking on my phone device here, make sure everything is working. And we got a cool show for you, starting momentarily. Let me get the chat going, and we are ready to jump in. All right, what's up, everybody? Everybody, welcome to the stream, everybody. It is the Friday live show. It's Friday, and this is live. Would it be cool if that was just the end of the show? I kind of want that to just be the end of the show. Just, it's Friday. This is live. Later. My name's Joel. We're going to be talking about all kinds of cool stuff today. On today's show, we have got some bibliomancy, a big giveaway that you want to stick around for. Your ToSalem updates. We got a deep dive on Satan. That should be fun. Q&A and a whole bunch more. We're going to start things out with a little bit of what's happening in the old glassy glass. This today is whiskey, specifically a rye whiskey. Big fan of rye whiskeys. It's probably the thing I drink more than any other alcoholic beverage. So this is to you. Cheers to you. Cheers to Salem. Cheers to being weird. Let's get into it. Ooh, that's good. That's Friday at 1:30 p.m. Good. We got a coin here in my hand. Let me show it to you. It's one of my favorite possessions of all time. This was given to me by the love of my life. If it'll focus, it probably won't. But on one side of the coin, you can see it's got the remember to live Latin phrase, memento vivere. And then on the bottom, or on the other side, on the back, it's got remember to die, memento mori. Would you focus? I got a new camera and everything. It's still not working. Anyway, so we got this coin. I thought this would be a fun way to start the show today. Let's do a little bit of bibliomancy. I've gotten feedback here on my reindeer. He's a reindeer this time of year, but normally he's just a stag. I don't have a name for him. Put a name in the chat if you got one. And then we got the book collection here. So we're going to do a little bit of bibliomancy to see how this live stream's going to go, because we got a bunch of stuff to go over. So we're going to use the fates of the universe to tell us how this live stream's going to go. You know what? How your week is going to go. How your life is going to go. No, we'll scale it back. How your week's going to go. All right, so we're going to do heads and tails here. We got two books I think that would be good for a little bibliomancy. We got Marcus Aurelius Meditations. And then we have Ralph Waldo Emerson Meditations. Emerson is like mostly nature stuff. So, and then of course, Marcus Aurelius is really general about life. So we'll say heads. Heads is the remember to live. Tails is remember to die. Memento mori. We'll say heads is Aurelius and tails is Emerson. Whoa. This coin's really heavy, so I'll probably screw it up. That's going to be heads. So that is Mr. Marcus Aurelius. There's another book stuck inside. Does this ever happen to you? There's a book stuck inside my book. This book is, we could read from this one since it was stuck inside. The Shot Heard Round the World, the Beginnings of the American Revolution. Fascinating. Oh God. It's all falling apart. That whiskey's strong, man. All right. We got Aurelius here. I'm just going to flip through so it'll feel like stopping. There. All right. On this page, let's see, we have... I love this book. Look, I got this book at a bookstore, an antique shop, actually, in New York. And look, the guy wrote his name in it, Wayne Pollock. And he also has written in the margins, this is the page we stopped on, but look at, he does all this great writing in the margins and underlining and stuff. Wayne Pollock, if you're watching, I mean, you probably are. If you're watching, I love you. He's underlined a whole lot of stuff here, but this is the first one that caught my eye. Here we go. This is meditation number 11 on page 63 of Marcus Aurelius' meditation. For a creature endowed with reason, an action in accord with its nature is also in accord with reason. For a creature endowed with reason, an action in accord with its nature is also in accord with reason. What does that mean? What does that mean? I guess that means if you have gone through the difficult process of engaging in reasonable thought, then an action in accord with its nature, the creature's nature, is also in accord with reason. I guess that means that it changes you to such a degree that you yourself become reasonable. All right. So this is going to be a very reasonable Friday show, apparently. So we did some bibliomancy. Let's start out the show today with a little bit of new subscriber shout out. New subscribers from the week. We got a bunch of them. Let's call some of them out here. Just random sampling. EV67. Let's see what EV67 is up to. EV67 looks cool. Look at that thumbnail. Aren't you cool, EV67? Thank you for the sub. I don't recognize any of these channels, but I see some tarot. I see some psychic-y, sort of spiritually stuff. Cool. Thanks for the sub, EV67. We got Philip Spitz with a Z. Although I also see Spitz with an X, and I also see Phil. Who are you, Philip Spitz? Tell us your name. He has uploaded a 2020 Hibiscus Moon Certified Crystal Healer Scholarship video by Phil Spitz. That's a long title, my man. Long title. He did that 9 months ago. He's got some subscribers. Looks like a cool dude, though. Love that bowler hat, my man. Big fan. Thanks for the sub, Phil. We got the Rob family with 2 B's. Here they are. They are subscribed to some Zen sort of stuff, some Better Habits sort of stuff. Hey, look at that. That's me. They got a few little videos. Cool. Thanks for the sub, Rob family. You are the absolute best. We have, this is a great screen name. Crazy 4 Cats RL. Hey, they're subscribed to Thorn as well. That's cool. One of the questions from the Q&A section today involves Thorn Mooney, whose new book, I understand, is going swimmingly. Cannot wait to read it. Check out the interview with Thorn Mooney if you haven't. Witch of Wonderlust, of course, subscribed. I think everybody is subscribed to Witch of Wonderlust at this point. And then we have Into the Abyss We Ride. Ooh, look at this. Oh my goodness. Oh, this channel. What is it about channels like this to describe my interest? Who are they subscribed to? Philosophy Tube, Contra. I'm watching a lot of them myself these days for reasons that will become clear later on in the channel's life. Cool. Into the Abyss We Ride. You have caught my intrigue. And we'll do one more recent sub. We got Marion Lyric. It looks like she's doing some, she or he, I assume she, is doing some music, some RPG kind of music, a little bit of spirituality stuff, also a Contra and Philosophy Tube person. It seems like there's a lot of bleed over between my audience and their audience. If only that were true in terms of numbers. I love ContraPoints. I love ContraPoints a lot more than well, I shouldn't say that. I'm a bigger fan of ContraPoints than I am of Philosophy Tube of Oliver, but I like him too. ContraPoints is just kind of like the OG to me. She's the one that got me into all this, into YouTube video essays, really, and seeing them as an art form. So I think I just have a soft spot in my heart for ContraPoints. What's up, Terry Barrios? Hello, good sir. Welcome back to the stream. Terry's a big old fan of this show and ToSalem in general. Always popping around. Good to see you this week, man. How are you doing? Put it there in chat. Terry. Let's jump in. Here. That's our new stuff shout out. We got a few just little, the Q&A is actually kind of extensive this week. I guess people enjoyed it last week, and so I got a bunch of questions. I forgot to light my candle back there. I'm going to do that now. Come on, baby, light my candle. Did you like that? I don't think you did. Does that damage your camera when you do that? I bet it does. See, it's precarious because this whole setup's new. And I've got some, you can't see it, but just on the other side of the candle, I've got some garland. This garland here wraps all the way around, and it might catch on fire. What an entertaining stream this will be for you. Few stories from around the web. The Q&A is pretty extensive today. Apparently people enjoyed the Q&A last week, so got a bunch of questions. I just picked out like 4 of them. If I didn't get to you this week, I'm sorry. Keep submitting if you really want your question answered. I really want to answer it, but I also don't want to keep everybody here for like 15 hours. So let's just do a quick roundabout around the web. This story is now mostly over, if it will load. Basically, we talked a couple weeks ago. We have been talking about the witches, and the page is not loading. But Warner Brothers officially released an apology for their depiction of differently abled people in the Witches remake. Interestingly, they didn't really say, nah, that's not gonna work. They didn't really say anything about what exactly they were apologizing for. Like, they didn't specifically talk about the disability that they were making fun of. They just said, hey, we're sorry. I still haven't watched the movie, by the way. From what I understand, the only reason to watch it is Anne Hathaway's performance, which is a good reason to watch a movie. But I don't know, man. I'm going to hold on to my own generation's version of the witches. I don't want to populate my my thought sphere with that. This is a really cool story this week. Man, I've read this like 3 times. It comes from The Sun. Man, I love this story. So we'll just kind of flip through this thing here. House of Spells. Couple find witchcraft den. Do you know how happy I would be if I bought a home and I found a witchcraft den in it? I would just make my millennium. Couple find witchcraft den filled with animal skulls in secret nook under staircase while renovating 16th century home. Gah, everything about that sentence makes me want to weep with joy. Renovating a 16th century home, I would love to do that. Not that I know anything about it. I think you just need like plaster, right? So they find this den. It has all kind of bones, but it's not just that. So this happened in Dinbeg, North Wales. Welsh language is mysterious to me. I have no idea how to pronounce anything. I can't even understand it when Welsh people are talking around me in English. I can't understand what they're saying at all. I want to, but it's just so dense. Check out this like hole that they found. Can we get a good big view of that? Yeah, look at that thing, man. Just a hole in the basement, inside which they found bones. I mean, look at this house. Gah. Such a fan. Staircase. This is the staircase where the witchcraft den was discovered. So I guess under that staircase. They spotted an eerie bundle stuffed under the ancient staircase and removed it to find an array of mystical items set out by previous owners to trap witches and demons. God, this is cool. Then they talk a little bit about how they found it. They have found in there odd shoes, horse skulls, rusted gun barrels to ward off evil. They also found a terrifying painting of a woman nicknamed Vicky. Why is Vicky such a scary name to me? That is a terrifying name. That's like, if I find a painting of a woman in my house and it's creepy, that's one thing. If I find a painting of a woman in my house and it's creepy, and on the bottom right, in children's handwriting, for some reason in my imagination, the artist has scribbled, "This is Vicky," then I'm really, really scared. They also found some old boots. They found some old receipts, bottles full of both poison and perfume. Look at these shoes, man. Oh, is that Vicky? Why is that even worse to me? Oh, Vicky. And that there's a split in the middle? Oh, man. This is giving me like intro to Haunting of Bly Manor vibes or something, man. This is Vicky's not up to any good. Or this part of Vicky is up to good. This left part, this right part, man, stay clear. Look at all these cool bottles and stuff they found. I would lose it. Oh, is that receipts? Ugh. I would lose my freaking mind with just joy. Oh, look how creepy that painting is over that doorway. That's what I'm saying, man. We don't have good houses in America. We really don't. We're all obsessed with the wrong things in our home building. Let's see what other pictures we got here. Yeah, I guess that's the horse skull. So this is really cool, man. This is such a good story. Check it out on the Sun. Just how they found it, what their thoughts about it were. Definitely worth checking out. And I don't know why, but this story gave me a lot of positivity this week. I felt very warm after reading this story and flipping through the pictures and everything. So I thought I would share it with you. That's it for Around the Web today. We're doing a real quick Around the Web because we got a bunch of updates to get to and a bunch of Q&A and a deep, deep, deep dive. So let's go ahead and do some ToSalem updates. The biggest one is as of, it's 1:45, as of an hour and 45 minutes ago at noon. That was the official cutoff for the callbacks for actors for the ToSalem series, the audio series that's coming out in January, the follow-up. It's not really a follow-up. It's set in the same universe as the Salem's Ghost to Salem Witch Trials Paranormal audio drama. This one is a series. It's not a one-off. Probably going to be somewhere around the neighborhood of 10 episodes. Talked a little bit about it last week, but we officially are casting it this week. Some things I think if you're a fan of the channel, if you watched, sorry I burped. If you watched the first, the feature-length one, you will no doubt be pleasantly surprised to find some, likely, I can't say for sure, but likely some people coming back from that one. We had people submit auditions that were in the first one, and I'm definitely going to be offering a few parts to some people from that one. So whether or not they accept it, we'll see. But if you liked the feature audio drama, you should definitely come back for this one and hear these people in wildly different characters. Just a little bit about what the story is. The first one, was set in the Salem Witch Trials and in 1914. And we bounced back and forth between those two. This one is set in 2021 and 1941. We bounce back and forth between those two. This time we follow two different protagonists, one in the 2021 timeline, one in the 1941 timeline. And the 1941 timeline is based on a real unsolved murder. Horrible murder. We still don't have any idea who did it. But everything else around that murder in 1941 and then everything in 2021 is all made up. And the 2021 stuff is like I think it's a very romantic, dramatic, high stakes, relationship focused story. So ideally this is going to be something that you really lose yourself in the characters and then the haunting murder kind of stuff, because this woman who was murdered in 41, there's now a ghost that has been seen a bunch since 1941 that is that woman's ghost supposedly just outside of Salem. All that stuff is going to kind of sneak up on you. So we're doing a premiere on January 15th, tentatively, assuming nothing goes horribly wrong. Like I said last week, the premiere is going to be a little bit different this time around. Last time we premiered on YouTube. This time we're probably premiering in like a Zoom situation. Since this is episodic, and again, I don't know how many episodes quite yet because the script is not totally done, but I'll show it to you. This is the script such as it is. There's about 100 pages in this, and it's missing about a scene and a half, which is the last scene and a half. This is like kind of the last step in my process as a writer. I don't know why I've always been this way. I can't write and edit the same way. I have to do it different. So I write on a computer like most people, and then when it's time to edit something, I start printing out drafts on recycled paper that I then recycle. Don't. So this is the first of those prints. There'll probably be 2 or 3 more. Tonight I'm going to sit through this, go through the entire thing, and then probably write the last scene. I need to go all the way through it, beginning to end, so that I can hit that last scene right, I think. So the script's going to be done, before the start of next week, which is when rehearsals start. Rehearsals are going longer this time because this is about double the length of the first one. So we're going a little bit longer in rehearsal. It's going to take a little bit longer to edit it. And we're all vaulting for the premiere, which again is this really big event. There's an assistant director on this one who is going to be handling a lot of what that premiere is going to be. So far, there's some really cool ideas coming from her and people who were involved in the first one, and a little bit from me, although mostly not from me. Some stuff that's going to be going on at that premiere is like interviews with the cast, like audience interviewing the cast, a bunch of cool featurettes surrounding the audio series that aren't going to be available any other way but to see them at the premiere. A bunch of like insights. There's one idea, I don't know if we'll do it or not, but there's one idea where you can like bounce between Zoom rooms, and every Zoom room has like its own specific purpose. So you just show up, and for the first like 2 hours or so of the premiere, you just go at your leisure bouncing between these rooms. And some of the rooms are just like, they're just playing a featurette kind of on repeat. So you can bounce in and watch it if you want. Some of them are just like an actor who's there to do interviews with whoever shows up in the room. So I really like that idea because it's kind of like a choose your own adventure thing. So you would show up at like, say, 6 p.m. and then from 6 to 8 p.m. we're doing all this cool premiere activity stuff, probably do some giveaways, a bunch of stuff, probably a room that's just about the history of the murder that this thing's based on and the ghost stories that have come from that murder. So I think it's going to be something like that. We're putting it together now, but I'd love to hear if you guys got any ideas about it, throw them at me. That is a paid event for pretty much the rest of 2020 on the live show. We've got a set of comp tickets for that premiere event that are going away probably starting like around Christmas this year. Those comp tickets are meant for cast and crew people, family, stuff like that. I have a certain set for the ToSalem audience. And so today I am giving away, if you want to come to this big old event, January 15th, probably somewhere from 5 p.m. in the afternoon until like 10 p.m. at night. Like it's like a get comfortable, settle in, enjoy this story, meet all these actors, whatever. We are going to be listening to the entire series at the premiere from beginning to end. So another reason to go is that you'll hear the entire thing before it's released to the public. It's going to be releasing episode by episode to the public. So if you want to hear the whole thing all in one sitting, you can only do that at the premiere. I'm not sure I am going to release the whole thing on YouTube, period. So maybe the only way to listen to it all in one go until it's all released is to come to the premiere. If you would like a comp ticket to this big shindig on January the 15th, you need to email me, Joel, Joel, at ToSalem, ToSalem.com. That is Joel at ToSalem.com. And just put in your subject header, whatever my name is, comp ticket for Salem's Ghosts premiere. All right. And I will try and get you that. Make sure to subscribe to the channel before you do that. For God's sake, subscribe to the channel and then send me the email. I don't know why I got angry all of a sudden. It's the whiskey. It's kicking in. I can't really feel much anymore. In addition to the audio series, I'm working on a little video for ToSalem that's probably not going to be out until 2021, early stages, but it's totally different. It's very ContraPoints. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's early days, but the ToSalem writer, whose name is Ellie, who is just fantastic, is also working on that with me. So it's I think it's the first collaborative. No, it'll be the second collaborative thing that I've done in terms of like creating the thing, the video. It'll be the second collaborative video. The first being the crafting series that's going to start rolling out here in the next week. That's really, really cool. We're just ironing out shots and stuff. So for the rest of December, you'll have those cool crafting videos that are like intentional crafting. That's the term I'm using. It's probably not right. But and then the audio drama on January 15th. And then somewhere also in that ballpark is this big, long video that ToSalem's doing that's like high production and high concept and really, really, really out there. So again, if you want comps, go ahead and email me, Joel at ToSalem.com. Let's roll into the Q&A. I need like stingers. I need like a Q&A, like explosion on screen so that you know that we're moving into the Q&A. For now, I'll just say it's the Q&A. If you want to ask a question that I then give you an A to, submit it at joel@tosalem.com and I will. I got a bunch. I'm weeding some out today because because there was a few. The first is not a question, it's a comment. It's a follow-up from last week. Last week we had this really great question from this person who did confirm that they are younger. I thought that they might be, and I suspected in my answer that they were younger, and they are. Her name's Heather. Last week she asked a question about starting a really weird podcast with her friends, but she was worried about people judging her for it, her family, her church, her friends, people like that. And that kind of sent me off on a long tangent that it sounds like she found useful, so that's good. She says, thanks so much for answering my question. We decided we're going to do it. I'd love to send it to you when it is finished. Stay weird. You stay weird, Heather. Yeah, do send it. She had a bunch of other stuff in her email that's very complimentary, and I really appreciate that, Heather. Thank you. Yeah, you've got to send it to me. I have no idea what this podcast is that you're talking about making, but I want to know. I want to know desperately. So send it to me. Send it to me when it's done. I'm intrigued, and when I'm intrigued, it's intriguing. We got a question here from Claire. Thank you, Heather, for sending in that follow-up. We got a question from Claire. What kind of magic resonates with you the most? Claire, Jesus. What kind of magic resonates with me the most? Good Lord. Well, I mean, the first answer, it's like asking me like what my favorite movie is. I don't have an answer because I don't really do favorites, but what kind of magic resonates with me the most? It depends, right? It depends on what my frame of mind is when I'm reading it. It depends on if I'm thinking of using it or if I'm just studying about it or whatever. I would say that probably the most appealing just functionally is chaos magic because it's so freeing. You can do so much with it. That's really enticing to me. And you can just start playing immediately. You don't have to like study a lot. Not that I am opposed to studying, but it's just very intriguing, though. If I'm honest, I don't really feel like I've ever been fully sucked into it. I do read about it fairly often, but it's never really grabbed me. But I keep going back to it because I think one day it will, or I suspect one day it will. Lately, I've been into Solomonic stuff a little bit of Golden Dawn sort of stuff. But there's not one, I mean, I know it's not a great answer, Claire. There's not really one that persists over time. I know I've never really been into earth-based stuff, natural stuff. It's never really appealed to me. I think I just don't, I grew up a lot in the woods. I spend a lot of time still in the woods. For some reason, my form of reverence to nature is to go be in nature as much as I can, to spend time in it. I don't really feel drawn toward any ceremonial stuff that involves nature. So yeah, like Wicca, that sort of stuff has never really grabbed me, although I tend to be very close with Wiccans. So I come up, I think about it a lot, I talk about it a lot, but it's not really my jam. Yeah, I know, not a great answer, but there it is. It changes. There's not one that is like the one for me. I'm kind of all over the map. Abysmal Ed. That's a great name. Abysmal Ed says, I really liked your answer about starting the podcast last week. Talking about Heather there. You should write a book about staying true to yourself, LOL. I'm really glad you put the LOL at the end of that, Ed, because that is an LOL statement. I should not write a book about staying true to yourself. It would be the most incomprehensible, garbage-filled, ranting, raving nonsense. No one would buy it, and those that did would want a refund. Okay, so blah, 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 yada, yada, staying true to yourself. Like the person who asked that, I also live in Salem. Hey, what's up, brother? Have you had any quote-unquote magical, and he does magical with a K, experiences there, meaning in Salem? If so, what were they? I have. I think I've talked about this on the channel or in one of the podcast episodes or something, but I'll go over it again. For you, Abysmal Ed, anything for you. before I went to Salem for the first time, I would say that I had lived the majority of my then adolescent and early adult life in a state of materialistic intellectual masturbation. um, I was at times like an avowed atheist, and by the time I went to Salem for the first time, I would say I was verging on just boring old agnostic. And so I go to Salem, and the first time I'm there, it's near Halloween. It's like a few weeks before, and it's just electric, man. If you've not been to Salem around Halloween, ooh, it is electric. There's just something about it, something in the air, something really, really enticing. And so we're there, we're having a great time. It's totally different than what I thought it was going to be. But that night, we decided to do a witch walk. So this is, it's a tour, it's a walking tour around Salem. And basically they take you around some of the Salem witch trials spots, such as they are. They show you some witchcraft history from recent Salem eras. But the thing concludes with you doing, or actually it starts with you doing a ritual with a practicing pagan. I think Wiccan, but I might be wrong about that. And it's basically to like bless a stone. You bless this little moonstone thing, and it's a bunch of tourists, and it's a very straightforward ceremony. We're doing the calling of the corners, north, south, east, west. We're invoking spirits for guidance and protection and all that. And I had some degree of exposure to these sorts of things before, so not a lot of it was super new to me. But when we were calling the corners, very, very early in the ritual, really kind of right on at the beginning of it, we're calling the corners, and I don't have good words for it, but somewhere in the back of my consciousness, I felt not alone in my body. I felt like there was something in my mind with me. It was a feeling I'd never had before in my life, at least not that I could remember. I did, in my head, hear very warm, comforting, loving comments, and they were in my grandfather's voice, who had been deceased at that point for a few years. But it didn't really feel like him. It was his voice and his like thick Tennessee accent, but it didn't feel like him, whatever it was. It felt like it was just using that voice because it knew that I would accept it in the way that it wanted me to. That's how it felt. But it didn't feel like it was him. And we finish, we call the corners. It all it's doing is saying like nice, warm things to me. But it was so deeply moving that I left that little ritual table entirely suspicious of my framework of reality. I really did. That's part of the reason Salem's gone on to be so important to me, is because it was the beginning of the end of the materialist worldview for me, and therefore sort of the beginning of the end of the self that I've wanted to so desperately transition out of even then, and was only able to via the esoteric. So yes, I have had magical experiences in Salem. That's the answer to the question. That's the first one, but it is by no means the last. It seems like every time I go there, there's something there. Good friend of the show, Ron Martin, who is a Salem travel writer and frequent visitor, said in the interview I did with him that he also feels some sort of magic in Salem. There's some kind of energy that is different. And he said something like what it is for him is it feels like anything could happen at any time. That's especially true around Halloween, but I'll say that it's true no matter what time of year you go there. I mean, I've walked down the main Essex Drag in Salem in like 10-degree weather in February, and it's still there. A lot of the shops are closed because They're seasonal, but it's still there. Whatever that thing is, it's still there. Even then, even when no one's around and it's miserable, Salem is, there's just something about it. I think that's part of why I am writing this audio series, honestly, and producing it. Why I did the first one too. I'm sort of low key. I mean, you guys will see when it comes out. I'm sort of low key doing like a mythos, kind of. I'm a big fan of the Dark Tower series. It is maybe my like second or third favorite series, book series of all time. Huge fan. Read it as an adult. So really, it was new to me, and it wasn't like a foundational lit or anything. It's not like Harry Potter. Like I just like it because I liked it when I was 12. No, this was like I legitimately love the Dark Tower series. And part of what I love about the Dark Tower series is the blending of real world influences and a massive multiverse mythos. It's just so beautiful to me. And the way he does it, that while he's doing that, he grounds all of the stories in very human, real, approachable narratives. And I'm kind of trying to do the same thing with the Salem's Ghosts series, but with Salem. I'm expanding on this idea that anything is possible in Salem. So yeah, Abysmal Ed, best name ever. I do. I have had magical events, and they have moved me so deeply that I'm still creating art to try and explore them. Sarah, great question. Thank you, by the way. Sarah asks, she says, just watched your interview with Thorn Mooney. Thank you. Great interview, wasn't it? Thorn's incredible. I loved her answer about being a pagan content creator and how tricky that can be to navigate. Do you feel the same way? Well, go watch that interview to hear Thorn's response. I won't summarize it because she does it way better than I ever could. I agree with a lot of what she says in that interview. I'm not a pagan. I don't identify as a pagan. So I'll just replace the word pagan in your question with the word esoteric. As an esoteric content creator, which I would consider myself that. Do I feel a lot of the same ways of what she expressed? Well, generally what Sarah's asking about here is Thorn and I got off on this long conversation about a lot of stuff around making content in a pagan space and the role of authenticity in that, the role of social media in that, the role of audience communication in that, what exactly you were trying to do when you do that. I mean, just, it was brilliant. And she had some incredible insights into what that experience has been like for her. For me, I would say, as someone who is definitely venturing farther and farther into making more esoteric content, which you'll see start rolling out in the near future. It's in process. But I've already started putting some of it out. And for me, yes. I mean, the short answer to the question is yes. I struggle with the same sorts of things that Thorn talked about. There is always, I think, going to be a little bit of weirdness around me talking about witchcraft because I present as a cis white male. I would not identify myself that way necessarily, but that's how I come across. And I'm aware of that. And that's kind of like the last person or the last kind of person that should be talking about witchcraft. So I'm very careful, in part because of that, to not call myself a witch, which I don't, and to really draw like a clear distinction about what I'm doing, which in my mind is like celebrating witchcraft, celebrating witch culture, celebrating the witch aesthetic, celebrate. That to me feels a little bit more ethically clean and a little bit more fun for me, honestly. So I have a little bit of distance that I've kind of like baked into the cake between me and the esoteric, or specifically witchcraft, that keeps me from having to deal with a lot of the same issues that Thorn has to deal with. But I think we share similarities in that we're both very concerned, I would say, based off of that interview and what I know of Thorn, we're both very concerned with being authentic, with being honest, and with doing things for good reasons. I kind of tend to believe that as long as that's your North Star, then you should be okay. The second you let other things become more important, attention, popularity, money, all those, then you've lost your way a little bit, I think, if you're in this space. The unfortunate reality, though, is that a lot of people in the esoteric space are offering classes and readings and all kinds of stuff, products, right? Products, all kinds of people in the pagan esoteric space are offering products. It could be hard to tell which of those people are doing it because I've got somebody coming on the podcast who was like this. They're doing it because their heart's in the right place, that they legitimately want to study with people. They legitimately want to learn from people. They legitimately want to share what their community is learning with people. And they've decided that the way that they can do that most effectively is by setting up some sort of online business platform. I got no problems with that, not one. But it's really hard to tell from the outside looking in which people are doing that and which people are just doing it for money. I think that, that's a really long conversation. But in regards to the question that you asked, which is, do I struggle with those inclinations? Yes, of course I do. Of course I do. And some of my struggle with it, you can see on the channel and the website. It's hard, man. It's been really hard for me to suss out what my content is trying to do and what it's in service of. Where I'm at now, honestly, is I just want to make the stuff I want to make. And I want to forget about, to quote one of my favorite songs ever, all this truth and consequence. Because I've kind of gotten to the point where I've thought about it in circles and it becomes debilitating after a while. So my perspective on it these days is I'm just going to do what I want. And whatever happens, happens. I think that's the only way I can move through this space. Really. If I try and tweak the presentation to, get more popularity or get money or whatever, I just end up miserable really quickly. So I'm just not the sort of person who can do it. I'm just not, which I guess doesn't make me a very good business person, but there are far better things to be in the world than a good business person. All right. That is concluding the Q&A section. Hey, let's go into the deep dive. This is really cool. I've been obsessed with what I'm going to talk about today for quite some time. I'll give you a little bit of a story to lead in to today's deep dive. In Salem, Massachusetts, there is a fantastic black or like charcoal colored house that's not downtown. It's kind of outside of downtown. So you have to drive to get there. It's a little bit out of the way. And I think that's on purpose. But it is the headquarters of the Satanic Temple. Now, a little bit of background for all my evangelical viewers who are currently going to watch something else. The Satanic Temple is not a religious organization. The Satanic Temple is a political and social organization. They are concerned with religious extremism. They're concerned with religions inserting themselves in government and judicial affairs. They're concerned with the separation of church and state. And they do a lot of things, a lot of theatrical things, a lot of judicial things, a lot of governmental protesty kind of things to help to ensure that no matter what the religion is, that that it is separate from these legal and governmental institutions. That's their big thing at the Satanic Temple. So I've known about the Satanic Temple for a while. There was a great documentary last year, I think it was last year, it came out, called Hail Satan by Penny Lane, but I knew about him before then because of Salem. A few years back, I went to the Satanic Temple for the first time. Beautiful place if you're ever in Salem. Put it on your must-do list if you are so inclined. Not just because there's a giant Baphomet statue that you can sit on and take selfies with, although that's great, but also because the art in this place is stunningly beautiful. The store is incredible. Their merch store online is incredible. I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out. They do great products, great merchandise that they offer both in store and online. Their art is incredible. Their speaking space is great. But my favorite part of the Satanic Temple, by far, was their library. As you can tell, I like to read. So I went to the library the first time, and I know about the Satanic Panic. It fascinates me. It's one of those, I think I've got a book right here, actually. One of the seminal books that led to the Satanic Panic is right here. Bloop. Light's blocking it. It's called The Dungeon Master, The Disappearance of James Dallas Egbert III. See when this was published. I'll get back to the story in a second, but this is a fantastic book, 1984. On the cover it says, on August 15th, 1979, a 16-year-old genius left the cafeteria of his dormitory at Michigan State University and disappeared. When his parents were finally notified nearly a week later, they hired a private investigator, William Deere, a kind of real-life James Bond, to find their missing son. This is Deere's story, the first true complete account of the mystery turned tragedy that captured the nation's headlines. Dungeons and Dragons and the Satanic Panic are intimately woven together. A lot of people who are playing Dungeons and Dragons, if you go back and you watch like Satanic Panic news coverage, a lot of what you're going to find in that news coverage is anchors talking about Dungeons and Dragons as a pathway towards satanic ritual worship. There was other stuff too. There was child abuse coming out of like daycares and babysitters. There was all kinds of weird stuff that was claimed to have happened. And basically, the Satanic Panic was a period in American history where radical evangelical Christianity went amok and ended up, a lot of kids and teenagers who were into like heavy metal and Dungeons and Dragons, in a lot of cases not into any of that. They just were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Got caught up in this supposed satanic ritual abuse, which was never shown to actually exist anywhere. So this ruined some people's lives. It really did. The most infamous case is probably the West Memphis Three, who Damien Eccles, by the way, you can check out on YouTube now. His book's behind me somewhere too. But he, oh cool. Love Salem just there a month ago for Halloween. Zen 1111 Tarot. 1111. Tell me about 1111 there in the chat. Curious. Why is that in your name? I'm an 11 person, by the way, numerologically. 11 and then distilled down to 2. But I've always felt more 11-y than 2-y. Cool. So, Satanic Panic happened in the 70s and 80s. A lot of people get caught up in it. Went to the Satanic Temple, go in their library, and they have just the most comprehensive, cool collection of Satanic Panic stuff I've ever seen. Binders with newspaper articles in it. I'm flipping through this stuff, books on the bookshelves, little display cases. I'm flipping through all of it, and I come across something called the Gray Faction. The Gray Faction is what I would like to expose you all to today in today's deep dive. I'll put it up here on the screen now. We can talk about it. Zen says, I'm all about love and light, and I'm awaken. Repeating numbers. Yep. Big fan of repeating numbers. But why 11 is my question. Tell me about that. So here's the Gray Faction. Here's what the Gray Faction's all about. The Gray Faction is all about going after, I think they call them conspiracy therapists. These are So part of what happened in the Satanic Panic, part of the reason the Satanic Panic was allowed to get as bad as it got, is because this didn't just happen in religious and governmental circles and judicial circles. It happened in therapeutic circles as well. Kids were being sent to therapy, and therapists were saying that these kids were possessed. And therapists were saying that this looks like someone who has been through childhood ritual abuse. And they were doing all these really wonky forms of therapy, clinical therapy, that didn't actually have much scientific or any scientific basis as like effective or even real. The biggest one is recovered memories. The whole idea of trauma being so deeply buried in the consciousness of a child after supposed satanic ritual abuse, so deeply buried that a therapist needs to go in and extract it because the child can't remember it, is totally not based on anything, based on my understanding anyway. But there was a lot of that happening during the Satanic Panic. And it continued. Even when the religious fundamentalism sort of fell apart, the therapeutic interventions into these children's lives continued. So the Grey Faction is really focused on, like here's this quote here: "The notion that traumatic events can be repressed and later recovered is the most pernicious bit of folklore ever to infect psychology and psychiatry. It has provided the theoretical basis for, quote, recovered memory therapy, the worst catastrophe to befall the mental health field since the lobotomy era." What a quote. That comes from Professor Richard McNally, Department of Psychology at Harvard University. Zen, she says, "So I started seeing the ones awaken. We start to see the 11:11 awaken in the spiritual world. Such a blessing. 2 right now. Crazy. You're seeing 2 right now?" I'm also a 2 person. 11 and a 2. Okay, so this idea of the Grey Faction, right? This idea of kids who are in therapy or in therapeutic treatment this is still happening. And therapists are trying to, quote unquote, recover, quote unquote, forgotten memories or repressed memories. You know what? Actually, when you think about it, think about your own traumas. Were you more inclined to repress those things? Or was your problem more that you couldn't forget them? Because I know for me, with my past traumas, I have a much harder time forgetting what happened than I do remembering it. So the Grey Faction is a really cool organization that's a part of the Satanic Temple that I highly recommend you guys checking out. I want to point you to conspiracy therapists. This is their term for these sorts of therapists, right? These are therapists who are still engaging in these sorts of practices. Let's go to open letter to, I just want to read this out. This is an open letter to patients of conspiracy therapists. If you're reading this, oh wow, it's kind of long. Let's pick out some stuff. Talk about Satanic Panic. Mental health practitioners, particularly those within the field of dissociative. That's another thing. A lot of this Grey Faction stuff is dissociative. Oh, that is crazy, Zen. Ooh, some woo-woo going on here. A lot of this this Grey Faction stuff is focused on dissociative. 222 means be aware of your thoughts. Huh. I'm mulling that. Dissociative disorders. So what are dissociative disorders? Dissociative disorders are also tied into the Satanic Panic. We used to call dissociative disorders, or these kind of dissociative disorders, multiple personality syndrome or multiple personality disorder. Think of like the movie Sybil, right? That used to be our interpretation of what that disorder was like. It is not like that. And these days, dissociative disorders have a whole different range of criteria, but it is still an enormously misdiagnosed thing. Kids come in who actually should be treated for like schizophrenia, let's say, and end up getting told that they have dissociative disorders and they have multiple personalities and they have to reconcile these personalities, yada, yada, yada. It's a bunch of pseudoscientific stuff that is still happening. The Grey Faction has a few sets of goals. I'm just going to talk briefly. I mean, read through this letter. I read it, and it's definitely worth checking out. But I'm going to talk briefly about what they're trying to do, because I just want to put some attention on the Gray Faction here. And you're probably going to hear me talking about the Gray Faction a lot in the future, because I just think it is a thing that no one is talking about, and it's still happening. Some of what they want to do is, so if you're a practicing clinical psychologist, you have to do continuing education credits, like a lot of professional people do, which means you have to clock a certain number of hours every year, or every however long, whatever the period of time is that says that you're continuing your education. A lot of the way that clinical psychologists get that continuing education credit is they go to these conferences that are held, and at these conferences there are all these speakers, and the American Psychological Association has said that if you go to this conference and you listen to this speaker, that equals X amount of continuing education credit. All right, so they'll go and they'll listen to this conference, and then they write it off and they say, okay, I did my continuing education. Here's the problem: a lot of the psychologists who put forward, and I'm just going to put on screen here so we can see who the Gray Faction says they are. Let's find it here. This one. Who are the conspiracy theorists? Here's a list. So you can just look at it as I'm talking. Look at how many there are just in this list. I don't know how many there are. Do they say? No, but I mean, what are we looking at? 70? 50? Way more than there should be. They will go to these conferences, and they'll speak at these conferences, and they will do, an entire 2-hour lecture on repressed memories and how to extract them, which again, largely debunked, not good therapeutic practice. But at these conferences are the next generation of clinical therapists. So they're hearing it and they're taking it into their practice. So part of what the Gray Faction is trying to do is getting those conferences to stop bringing those kinds of speakers around. That's the first thing. Zen 1111 Tarot says, it's either higher vibration or lower vibration. We all vibrate at a certain rate. Yeah, that's totally true. Doctors just want to put labels on people. Want to put a label on people, yeah. I don't necessarily have a problem with the label. I have that they're labeling people things for which there is no good treatment, because the labels themselves have been largely disproven. And they lead people to these like horrible places. I mean, think about this. Think about this from both angles. And I know somebody who's like this. I've had this conversation with somebody. It's horrifying. Imagine you are a kid who has some emotional issue, right? And your mother, when you're 6, takes you to an exorcist. Imagine what that does to a 6-year-old mind, to fully believe that they are possessed by demonic force. Now, am I saying that such a thing is impossible? I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm saying that the prevalence of it in the satanic panic especially, and seeing what it did to those kids that are now adults, so we can go back and we can look at their accounts and we can hear what they think about it today, it's not good. It's not good. It messed them up. It messed them up bad. And it wasn't the demon that messed them up. It was the exorcism. It was the religious fanaticism. So that's one side of it. And the other side is the therapeutic thing. Imagine you're a kid who's misdiagnosed at the age of 12 with dissociative identity disorders. And you're being told all kinds of things to treat yourself for the next decade and a half of your life. Through your entire adolescence, you're being told that you're one thing that you're not. You're being given treatments that aren't actually going to help you. They're actually, in a lot of cases, going to make you worse. And the reason that this is happening, a little insight here, the reason this is still happening is money. That's why. That's the reason. These people publish books about recovered memories. They publish books about dissociative disorders. They publish books about supposed occult rings, satanic influences. They go on TV shows. They get appearance fees. They talk at the lectures. They go to churches, for God's sake. They spread themselves out in religious communities, and they make way more money than they would have if they were doing good, solid clinical therapy. It's a huge problem. I have talked to people at the Satanic Temple, and I have asked them, what are our numbers here? Like, are we talking, how many kids, this is a question I've asked, how many kids right now in America would you say are being misdiagnosed or in some form of clinical therapy that is some sort of offshoot or a direct descendant of the sort of stuff that was going on in the Satanic Temple? The answer I got was it is at least in the thousands. Still, just in the US, thousands of kids that this is happening to. And I think it is the most beautiful, gorgeous, insanely cool irony on the planet Earth that the people who are fighting it are the Satanic Temple. So go support the Satanic Temple. Let's go to their store here. Let's see if we can get to their store. I just want to show you guys the merch. So you know, if you want to buy someone in your life something cool this holiday season, and they are like me, here, I'll have to type it in. Give me one sec. Hear my body popping? Dying. Go to the Satanic Temple and buy some stuff. Just buy some stuff. Look how cool this stuff is. They got books. This is what their Baphomet statue looks like. Oh, it's sold out. You can't get this, but that's what it looks like. It's got 2 children, and you can sit on its lap. Look at this. I look at this statue so differently than I think. This is not a cool statue to me. I mean, it is cool, but these 2 kids, consider everything I just told you about these 2 kids are actually in the statue. Consider everything I just told you about the Grey Faction, and now look at those 2 kids. And tell me that your heartstrings aren't getting pulled a little bit about what the Satanic Temple's trying to do for children, and for your government, and for your judicial institutions. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I've been a fan of them for a long time. But the Grey Faction specifically, please do look into them and shop here for things. It's thesatanictemple.com/collections this holiday season. I know I will be buying something in the near future. All righty. Thank you so much for the love there, Zen11 Tarot. Big fan of yours. Thanks for showing up to the show. Everybody, that's the end of the deep dive, and we have reached our hour for this Friday, December 4th. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Again, if you want to get comp tickets to the Zoom, it's all going to be happening on Zoom, so you can watch at your own house, to the live Zoom premiere of the Salem's Ghosts series, which is going to be releasing in mid-January, you need to email me, Joel, Joel, @ToSalem.com. Also, if you want to submit a question or comment or whatever for next week's Q&A, please do that. Coming up next week on the channel, please do keep a lookout for the next episode of the Salem Witch Podcast. Fantastic long interview with one of the most knowledgeable pagans you're ever going to come across. Very in-depth, cool conversation. And keep a lookout. I'm not sure when it's coming out, but keep a lookout for the upcoming crafting videos. That is all for today, witches. I will see you in Salem's in 11 Tarot. Hit me up next time you're going, and we'll go have coffee at Gulu or something. I totally do that, by the way. If you're in Salem or you're going to Salem, also email me because I love to meet people in Salem and get to know you. All right, everybody. That is all for today. Stay weird. Witches, let me toast you before we get out of here. Stay weird, and we'll do a little callback to the beginning of the stream. Remember to live, and remember to die. Focus. Boom. Oh, God, I love that thing. Remember to live, remember to die. Here's to you. Here's to Salem. Stay weird, witches. I'll see you next time. Later.